There was no fire, no flood, no explosion, no warning, and yet nearly 1,800 people were dead by morning. Men, women, children, entire families gone. Some were found still sitting at their dinner tables, some clutched their loved ones, some never even moved. They simply stopped breathing. This wasn't war, this wasn't a disease, it was a cloud, a silent killer that drifted in the night. This is the real story of Lake Nyos and the ghost it released. We begin in northwest Cameroon, West Africa. Near the border with Nigeria, nestled in a valley of volcanic mountains, lies Lake Nyos, a deep crater lake formed by a long-extinct volcano. The lake was remote, isolated, peaceful. Villages like Nyos, Cha, and Cam were scattered across the hillsides, farming, fishing, living quiet, simple lives. By 1986, no one suspected the lake was dangerous. There were no signs, no tremors, no warnings, just the silence of nature. But beneath the surface, something was building. It was a Thursday night, August 21st, 1986. Around 9:30 p.m., people in nearby villages began to hear something strange. A low rumble, a gurgling. Some thought it was thunder, others thought it was the sound of wind coming over the hills. Then the dogs stopped barking, the crickets stopped singing, and then nothing. Sometime that night, without any warning, Lake Nyos exploded, but not in the way you'd expect. No flames, no debris. Just water and gas. A massive cloud of carbon dioxide burst from the lake's surface and surged across the land. What happened wasn't just rare, it was almost unknown. The lake had been silently absorbing carbon dioxide from volcanic vents deep below. Year after year, CO2 built up at the bottom, pressurized by the weight of the water above, until finally, something triggered a limnic eruption. The CO2 violently rose, carrying water with it. A geyser burst 300 feet into the air. Then a dense, invisible gas cloud, heavier than air, rolled down into the valleys. Carbon dioxide displaces oxygen. And as it crept through the villages, people began to suffocate. Silently, instantly. By morning, the sun rose over a scene of devastation. Bodies were everywhere, in homes, on roads, in beds. People were found collapsed mid-step. Livestock, chickens, goats, all dead. Over 3,500 animals, entire villages wiped out. The few survivors described the horror. They woke to find their families dead. They couldn't breathe, they collapsed. Many lost consciousness for hours. One survivor said, "I thought it was the end of the world." Another said, "The air just vanished." It took days for the world to respond. When investigators and scientists arrived, they were stunned. They wore gas masks. They tested the water. And they discovered the truth. Lake Nyos was a death trap, a carbon dioxide time bomb, and no one had known. CO2 had been silently saturating the bottom of the lake for decades. The eruption released over 1.6 million tons of the gas, enough to suffocate everything within a 16-mile radius. It was one of the largest known CO2 disasters in recorded history. And it had happened in complete silence. The world suddenly realized this wasn't just a tragedy, it was a warning. Other crater lakes, like Lake Kivu in Rwanda, also sit atop volcanic CO2 vents, and they're surrounded by millions of people, Scientists rushed to invent degassing systems, giant floating tubes that release carbon dioxide from the depths little by little to prevent another eruption. Lake Nyos now has these systems, but it took nearly 2,000 lives to realize they were needed. Nature had spoken, and it had done so without a sound. The story of Lake Nyos is terrifying, because it's real, because it was silent, and because it reminds us how fragile we really are. No monsters, no war, just a lake, just air. We live in a world that's full of hidden dangers, and sometimes what you don't see, what you don't hear, is exactly what can kill you. This is Bizzanterium. Subscribe and uncover what the world forgot.